All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our March 27th RENU Oversight Committee meeting for the City of New Ulm. I would like to thank everyone for attending and for Lisa attending on the phone and our guests that are here to present and be a part of our meeting. First order of business would be approval of the agenda and minutes for today's meeting. It was sent out in the packet ahead of time, and actually we have two sets of minutes. So why don't we start with December 12th. That meeting and the minutes were attached. Would look for an approval or comment or any recommended changes on the meeting minutes from our December 12th meeting.
I make a motion to approve the minutes for December 12th, 2018.
Okay, thank you. There's been a motion.
Second.
And we have a second. Any more discussion on the meeting minutes? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. On to the next meeting agenda and minutes, and that meeting was on January 10th of 2019. Again, minutes were included in the packet. Hopefully you had a chance to review them. Again, would look for any comments, recommended changes, or corrections, and then a motion for approval if we wouldn't have any changes.
And, I make a motion to approve the minutes for January 10th, 2019.
Okay, thank you.
Second.
And we have another second. Any more discussion on the January 10th meeting minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. On to item number 2 under the agenda, finance and bonding updates. And the first attachment or report that we have is a sales tax report. And I don't know if Chris or Nicole, are you guys gonna?
I just looked, well, this is actually something we track monthly anyway, but I just wanted you guys to have an idea where we ended up for 2018 in comparison to what the history has been. So you can kind of see. I don't have any real concerns. It seems that we're up from where we were a few years ago. We're down from last year, but we also had somebody who had a huge capital refund early in the year. So
I was quite pleased and promising that things haven't trended downward. Any other?
It's been 1.1 million a year, so we're right in line with where we've been budgeted.
On the bonding, we used 1.1 and then like 90% of that for the bonding. Great. Any questions or comments on the sales tax report, or actually the sales tax, excise, or any of the finance reports that were included? Okay, maybe we'll go down to the spending report. This, I believe, is the first time we've had this report included, if I'm not mistaken.
We use as far as tracking the spending for spend down purposes. Like we've said before, as long as our bank interest rate stays below that arbitrage yield that we're tied to, we really don't have to worry about the spend down limits, but our bank rate is climbing.
Yeah.
It's at 2.69 as of last month, and the arbitrage yield was 3.06. So we're really going to start wanting to watch those spend down limits if that interest continues to rise.
Okay. And if that would happen, is that when it triggers the 18 months? Or I remember the 18-month term.
Really what would happen is anything over that arbitrage yield interest rate that we would earn, we have to report and pay into the IRS.
Okay.
So it doesn't really affect how fast we have to spend it. It just creates more paperwork
Got
and
it.
more requirements and more eyes from the government on what we're doing.
Makes sense. Any questions on the spending report? Okay, those will be filed with our meeting minutes and packet here. We'll move on to the next agenda item, and we're looking forward to project updates and then some items we want to take action on. First up here would be a gymnastics presentation, and we have members from the Turner Gymnastics Academy. I think that's a new Turner organization, so welcome, Andrea. And we have at least, I think, some of the materials in our packet. Anything that you're sharing today that we don't have a copy of?
Not at this point, but I'm happy to provide any other information that would supplement the information I'm presenting today. And then I have one correction in the letter. The second one, it's actually November of 2016. In the first line, it says 2015. But I wanted to thank the Oversight Committee for inviting us to present an update today on where we are with gymnastics right now. About 5 years ago, when we started meeting and talking about what one stronger gymnastics program would look like, we became very excited about the opportunity of the RENU funds being available, and had done some work to present, and have been meeting quite frequently recently about a new facility, and are just very excited about where everything is going. So most of you, if not all of you, should have a little packet that I put together. So just a letter that talks about where we are at today, where gymnastics is going, and then the business plan. So back on December 10th, we did meet with several members of the Park and Rec and City to present a business plan. This one is an updated business plan that reflects Turner Gymnastics Academy. So without further ado, I'll just kind of show you a little bit of a presentation that we put together, which hopefully will answer a lot of the questions that you may have about our program. So right now, well, up until recently, there were 2 existing nonprofit gymnastics programs. And the first one was Turner Hall Gymnastics. And the second program was NUAGA, which was actually born from staff of Turner Hall Gymnastics that felt 20 years ago that the city would benefit from a second program, which it has. So Turner Hall Gymnastics is the oldest program in the state of Minnesota, so over 150 years of history. We pride ourselves on our motto of a sound mind and sound body, and we offer low-cost, affordable classes for youth, recreational and competitive programs. And we are financially sound and are looking to be progressive, just like gymnastics has been for over 150 years. NUAGA has over 20 years in business, also offers recreational and competitive programs. Unlike Turner Hall Gymnastics, they are able to offer year-round programming, so they do have summer programming as well. And they are currently the host for ISD 88, where they train and host the meets. NUAGA is also financially sound, and just one other difference is that with their space, currently they are able to offer some private lessons. In preparation for a new facility, our boards and representatives from the affected organizations approved an absorption of NUAGA into Turner Hall. So as part of this plan, NUAGA is going to dissolve, and the new combined program will be known as Turner Gymnastics Academy. So this brings together the best of both names, keeps the history the same, and then allows us to take the best parts of both of our programs and bring them together so that we can be a lot stronger. So as part of the dissolution, the staff, equipment, and assets will be absorbed into Turner Gymnastics Academy, which will be operated and run under New Ulm Turnverein Incorporated, which is a registered 501c3, and is the historic building and program for gymnastics. So as of March 21st, we did begin the transition. We've opened a bank account. The programs are beginning to merge, and we are bringing in some staff. So Courtney Peterson, who's also one of the representatives, is a coordinator for Turner Hall and NUAGA right now. And she's going to be doing a lot of the legwork in helping to identify what the strengths are in Turner Hall programs and NUAGA programs and bring those together, look at enrollment and see how many of each age group classes should be offered, and perhaps expand into some of the other classes where we have an increased demand. What brought about the creation of Turner Hall Gymnastics Academy was the premise that the 2 programs that exist right now are going to be a lot stronger together. So having youth programming that ranges from 18 months to 18 years is affordable for families. Using United Way to have scholarships for qualifying families. And as a combined program, we would be able to offer year-round programming to over 350 students. It's closer to 400, and depending on the time of year, from over a 35-mile radius. So we have students right now that come from Hanska, from Sleepy Eye, from Redwood Falls, from St. James, from Adelia, Nicollet, and we're just continuing to draw, which just reinforces the need for a combined facility that can meet the needs of folks in our community and surrounding communities. So as a recreational program, just very excited to help increase those numbers and focus on athletics in the community. Taking the next level is a competitive program, and so we do offer currently team training based on skill levels. We serve as kind of a feeder program for the high school gymnastics team. And then we do have two types of competitive teams. So there's the USA gymnastics, and then there's the MAGA gymnastics. And so even with the combination of the two programs, we still would be able to have competitive students on both types of programs, and they would be able to compete independently. So we'd really be able to grow both of those programs as well to their max capacity. And the difference between those two are just a different set of scoring rules. So just dependent on where the gymnasts are and what their preference is, but it would be nice to give them that option. And then looking at alternative income. So in addition to being able to have a recreational and competitive space, you know, we can look at other options that the community has been, I guess, requesting and asking about, such as parkour classes, strength and flexibility classes, the ability to host more birthday parties and other types of events, but most importantly, regional and divisional meets. And right now, and as I move ahead, I'll talk about some of the challenges of the current spaces that we do have, but we are unable to host any kind of larger meets that are going to draw from larger parts of greater Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin, South Dakota. And a new facility would give us the ability to bid on and host those types of events, which is good for our program, but good for the city as well. Some of the investments that we've made over the past 5 years have been just really coming together as one organization, walking in parades, walking and canvassing the neighborhood in support of the RENU program. So back in 2016, a little bit before the election, we had a group of a ton of gymnasts that went around and canvassed neighborhoods and talked to people about voting yes and how important it is and why it's important to have a facility. And just with the amount of voting that we had in favor of that, I think it was close to 66%. It just reinforces that the folks of the community are ready for this type of growth. So now I want to talk about some of the existing barriers that we have. So Turner Hall operates its gymnastics program in a 5,000 square foot facility. This facility also doubles as a place where events are hosted, and the reason that we have to host events is because we need to bring in income to keep the building. So we do the best that we can to have gymnastics available as many days of the year as possible, and then maximizing our income from events and weddings during the summer months so that we can continue to kind of operate together. If we had the ability to host year-round, it would just be more income and ability to make a stronger program. Like I talked about, we also do not have an ability right now to host any events, so larger, more lucrative meets are unable to be hosted in either of our existing spaces. So one single facility will offer the opportunity to host events that attract guests to New Ulm who will stay and spend their money locally. And then through combining the programs together, we are eliminating some duplicate expenses. So technology-related expenses like telephone, internet, printing expenses, website expenses, staffing expenses. And so bringing those programs together will cut down on some of those duplicate expenses and give more funds to generate back into the program for growth. Interest in the sport of gymnastics continues to be on the rise. According to Statista.com, the number of households with people very interested in gymnastics is expected to rise through 2020. And so in our world, a lot of folks just think of gymnastics as tumbling. And right now, the sport is merging to include cousins such as parkour, martial arts, ninja warrior, different types of yoga, advanced dance, and cheerleading. And so a new facility will provide the citizens of New Ulm and surrounding areas a home for both traditional and alternative gymnastics and a place for athletes in all sports to improve their skills, strength, and stamina. Following the formation of TGA, I did go ahead and reach out to the superintendent of ISD 88 and to the executive director of the United Way of Brown County. And both programs are excited to have the opportunity to help students in a new space. ISD 88 does continue to plan renting the space or leasing the space from us as Turner Gymnastics Academy, and we would work with them on a lease agreement as soon as a facility completion nears. Until then, they would just continue with the same lease that they have right now, and we may update it to reflect Turner Gymnastics Academy. United Way of Brown County will continue to provide tuition support for qualifying families, which is the same in many of the other sports, where they'll cover 80% of the cost, and the parents who also need to have some skin in the game cover 20%. So just looking at some of the additional benefits of a new facility is having a single, adequate space for practices, classes, and meets. It also provides a safer space for both gymnasts and audiences. So in one of our prior presentations, prior to the RENU vote, we shared some photos of overcrowded gymnasiums with parents, all the way to the very edge of the mats, all the safety issues that are caused by having people move as meets progress, and that should be eliminated with an adequate facility space. Additionally, year-round programming will allow us to have classes or have a gym open 7 days a week. I mean, right now we do not have that flexibility, but by bringing forces together and being able to have appropriate staff and volunteers, I foresee us being able to have open gyms on Sundays and open gyms on Saturdays, and just kind of bringing more people into the whole park and rec development as well. Here's your slide. Benefits for the city of New Ulm. Ability to hold meets. So again, who bring families who shop, dine, and stay in New Ulm. Attractive to families looking to relocate to a smaller town. So these are some of the things that as a family you want to consider when you move to a new community. It's no secret to many of you that I'm from a pretty metro area in between New York City and Philadelphia, and kind of was brought in here. And one of the things that I did love about New Ulm is it's a pretty self-inclusive city. So you don't have to travel to Mankato to get good food. You don't have to travel to Mankato to get good shopping. You do have to travel if you want to go to Target now, but that's a different topic. But these are the types of things that families are looking for, and if we can show that we do care about youth and have a space for them that's good and safe, and that they can practice their craft and that they can get the wiggles out, I think it's just more attractive for everyone. And then we are a financially sound tenant with a strong history of success. So having over 150 years of gymnastics programming, and never having to ask, for a loan from the city or a loan from a bank for different things just shows how sustainable we really are. And I know that bringing programs together and having an adequate space will make us even stronger. So some of the things that we have been doing over the past 5 years in preparation for a facility is, about 5 years ago, we started talking from both organizations. Parents and students canvassed neighborhoods with RENU flyers, helped garner support. Commitment was gained from all parties to unite with one program. Representatives from Turner Hall and Nuaga continued to meet to discuss the merging programs. And then as of the last year or two, we've been meeting with key city officials. Gymnastics representatives and park and rec staff have been getting together. We did present a business plan on December 10th. Again, your updated business plan is in your packet. And then we are in conversations with the city about a lease agreement, and those are progressing quickly. We do expect to sign and return that lease agreement. Just to identify, I guess, who our Gymnastics Academy team of representatives are. So it is myself, Doug Hughes, who is currently a competitive coach for the Turner Hall Dynamites, Courtney Peterson, who is the gymnastics coordinator for Turner Gymnastics Academy, previously Nuaga and Turner Hall Gymnastics. Jamie Reiser is a Nuaga Turner Gymnastics Academy representative who was previously on the board of directors for Nuaga. Daniel Schwartz, who is the treasurer of the New Ulm Turnverein Incorporated and head of the Youth and Fitness Committee. And then Christine Wald, she is helping with our financial pieces and putting things together for us as her background as a CFO. Okay. Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you for all of the supporting documents and the overview and the presentation.
Thank you.
Very informative. So let's open it up for questions on the gymnastics planning?
Sure, I've got one. Just looking at your construction requests, you're looking at a 16,000 square feet of space with 12,000 square feet dedicated to performing floor space. And the information we're provided here today from JLG, we're only looking at building 10,000. So is that going to meet the needs that you're asking for? That's what I'm asking. Is that correct then, Tom? From the JLG, what we're proposing, 10,000?
Well, we've been talking about 10,000 square feet for performance space for quite some time. And so that is still our goal.
Okay.
We'll certainly be continuing to work through the process with all the parties involved and the financials to see how this thing ends up. But our discussions since day one have been to adequately serve the need with approximately 10,000 square feet of performance space. There certainly is going to be some common spaces, hallways, restrooms, multi-purpose rooms, and so on.
And so, yes, 10,000 would be considered adequate floor space.
Okay.
Okay, other questions? Thank you, Larry.
Do you have full-time employees then that are working full-time for the program? Or is it all
Between her hours at Nuaga and Turner Hall, which is now Turner Gymnastics Academy, Courtney will be full-time. I'm also a full-time employee that oversees the gymnastics program, although not a full amount of my time is spent on the gymnastics program. About half of my time is
So I
right
see.
now.
So I see 18,000s for payroll. So that's for all staff then to operate this.
The updated one should reflect $75,000 of
Oh, I see.
payroll, and then $18,000 of that
Taxes.
is payroll taxes that we pay in addition
Sure.
to the payroll.
Okay.
Okay.
Got a lot of numbers in front of us. And
Yeah, no, that's okay.
Just kind of asking because I thought it seemed kind of low there.
Yep.
Okay,
Okay, sure.
thank you. Other questions?
I just, comment and mention was made of signing the lease. I think it's probably premature to be doing that at this point, and I think we need to be talking about that. So I know we've discussed terms, et cetera, but I'm suggesting that not actually be signed at this point in time.
Correct. We're just discussing terms, and as that progresses, everything will be going through the attorney's office. And
Okay. Then the other question that I've got, Mr. Chair, is it's almost 5 o'clock. We have got an awful lot to consider. Are we just going to keep going until we're done? Because, I don't know if you had other commitments. I know there have been other times when we've said we're going to have to adjourn by a certain time.
What's the time check for the committee? I haven't trusted the 1 hour invite on Outlook ever for this committee meeting, so.
Well, I think tonight it could probably go substantially beyond that, but. Okay.
I'm also interested from Chris or others of any action or any recommendation that you would be looking for out of this committee for city council as it relates to the gymnastics overview.
No, this more just informative for the group and to get some questions answered that were asked about the funding and things like that. So there won't be any action going to council for this. This is more just informative.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much for the presentation and all of the information. Exciting. Okay, we'll move on to other project updates. Next one, 3.2 on the agenda, Johnson Park. I'm sorry, I don't see names on here. Am I looking to?
Yes,
Dr.
thank you,
Schmidt?
Chair and members. We actually do have a proposed action here, and I just passed around a document with the proposed schedule for the project. And what has happened, what has transpired over the past few months is that the conceptual documents, conceptual drawings that the committee and the council has already approved have gone on to construction documents. So they are ready to go out for bid. So I would like to see the Oversight Committee approve this schedule and forward it on to the City Council for their authorization to put it out for bids at their next meeting this coming Tuesday, April 2nd.
Okay.
So the construction documents are, almost identical to the conceptual documents. There's been no drastic changes. So I would recommend that we move forward with this schedule and present it to the city council on Tuesday for them to authorize going out for bids.
What's the estimated budget for this project?
$1 million.
Okay, any other questions? Any concerns with this schedule? Okay, would look for action. Is there a motion to recommend the city council adopt the schedule as it's been presented today?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second to recommend city council adopts the bidding and construction schedule, which would, we can see here, bids would go out April 3rd with an estimated completion date for the project of October 4th. Any more discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Second item of excitement for the meeting. Let's keep things rolling here. 3.3, Herman Heights Park.
Thank you, Chair and members. No action necessary at this time at Herman Heights. We are still finalizing the conceptual drawings with our consultant Bolton and Mink and staff. And so I would anticipate in the very near future that the conceptual drawings will go through the committee and the council authorizing Bolton and Mink to prepare construction documents.
And what was the preliminary estimate for the cost of that project?
Approximately $800,000.
And this is still just dealing with moving Monument Street, the parking, traffic flow on top. This doesn't include incorporating the hillside into this project.
Well, the RENU dollars are not planned to incorporate the slope and the retaining wall project, but I think the council is quite interested in having the two projects constructed at the same time.
Okay.
The retaining wall and slope committee is still working on their recommendation that will come to the council here eventually. And then I think construction documents will be authorized for the slope and retaining wall project. And I would think next year, 2020, would be the soonest that construction would take place up at Herman Heights with those two projects in separate funding mechanisms.
Okay.
Previously, I mentioned to the council, and it's still my opinion, I think that the funding for the hillside project could be wrapped into the RENU funds if the council decided they wanted to do that. If they did not want to, that's their call. It's part of the same park. The two are going to be interconnected. You're going to be cutting into the hill. But if for budgeting purposes, the council wants to keep them separate, some funds I think have been already budgeted for the hillside. That's the council's decision. So,
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or discussion on Herman Heights Park? Appreciate the update. Item 3.4, Target Building, and there was some information included in the packet, pages 18 through 20. Is this also Director Schmitz, or who's providing the update
I can
here?
take this one.
Okay.
So the Target Building was brought up as a location to locate sort of the projects at the field house as a separate location. We looked at the Target Building on March 20th, and the building really isn't suitable for a majority of those projects. The only one that could really go in there was the Wellness Center. And there it would still be pretty tight. You could probably do your workout and maybe put a track in there. But moving just the Wellness Center instead of locating, all those projects at the Target Building poses a problem as far as splitting services. There's not a cohesive unit. You'll have to, if you want to, go swimming, you'd have to go to the rec center, then you'd have to drive and work, drive to the other side of town to work out. And then it's doubling services as far as increasing park and rec staff. And then there was the issue of, can RENU funds even really be used to purchase the Target Building? Because if you increase the Wellness Center to even, let's say, 10,000 square feet, you're only occupying about 10 to 15% of the building, which I don't feel, and I conferred with the city attorney, that the money could be used to fund that only using 10% for a RENU project, because there's still, 90% of the building left over. There were a lot of other issues, in the issue sheet, that you can read, but a lot of it was, the gymnastics can't go in there because the ceiling heights aren't high enough. You still have your water park out at the rec center, and your wellness center really is the only thing that can go in there. But then you're dividing services again between the two. So it's my recommendation that we recommend to the council that the RENU projects don't go into the target building, but it is open to discussion between everyone here.
The question I would have is the council really expecting a recommendation from this committee? I'm not aware that this is necessarily on the agenda. I know council members participated in viewing it.
I believe we brought it to the RENU as a council. We looked at it with staff, and then the council wanted it to go to the RENU for discussion, whether to recommend to come to council or
Okay,
not
then it
with
would
the
be
purchase.
appropriate.
Correct.
Okay.
I'd like to add in here, because I thought you've got in here, Chris, 28 feet for gymnastics required. In our other information, we were just talking about 18 feet for gymnastics for ceiling heights, just clarification.
So our JLG, the consultant, said 28 feet is required for gymnastics when you get on certain bars and things of that nature. That's something I don't know why they think 18 is okay, but when I went on to USM Gymnastics, it said 28 feet is recommended ceiling height, but even in the target building, you don't have the 18 feet of clearance.
Well, just
Still.
for discussion for the Vogel building, are we going to have 18 feet
Yep.
or are we going to have 27 feet?
We'll have,
28.
so
I mean,
on the
do we
deep
have
end,
adequate-
and on the deep end, we have about, Ryan, what was it, 26 to 28?
28 feet.
Yeah, and then if we take the pool deck off, we can lower that a little bit more to get more of an even spread. So we do have the clearance in the pool area already.
Sure.
Other questions, comments? Because themes I saw from the notes that were prepared in the potential action sheet, I summarized as it appears staff believe there would be some revenue risk to the city of splitting the services, some risk of increased operating costs. Not sure about the MLC partnership and how that would be maintained if services were relocated. And then site remodeling costs of getting into more usable space at Target. And lastly, haven't heard you comment on that piece, but just RENU compliance, whether, as we ran into some issues when we were even looking at for economic development, land acquisition. I thought with Brian, we ran into some issues of acquiring property. The first time we ran through this with RENU, but if there's not interested in pursuing this, then we don't have to get any legal
Right.
opinion on that.
I don't, my assumption, I think everyone who viewed the building and considering at least what the RENU purposes are at this point in time, if it were to change and if there's daycare was involved, but that's, down the road. I've not heard anything more from the legislature on our request that they contact us on that. So there's nothing that's happening real quickly on that. So with where we're going with scheduling things, it just doesn't look like Target is an option for us.
Anyone else? Then would look for action has been proposed here. City staff or others?
I would make a motion to recommend to the city council not place any of the present RENU projects at the former Target building.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second that.
Okay, we have a second. Any more discussion?
I'd like to add, I think it was a good eye opener, that we did it as to go do some good due diligence for the community, because everybody sees a vacant building, they see that could be an opportunity, but it's deceiving when you see the outside versus looking at the inside, and I think if we would sit on it and explore all options and how we could maximize the use, it could be there, but we have to move forward here with our RENU projects, and that's where I'm gonna say we have to go ahead with the Bogle at this time.
Agree. Didn't want to have any regrets in the future, woulda, coulda, shoulda, and,
Correct. We did
Done
our
that?
due diligence.
okay. So all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, on to the next item here. On the agenda was item 3.5, and again, there was an action sheet here on the dome project.
Okay, so before us, some information that I was able to get prior to the meeting, but not in time for the packet to go out, was a revised budget summary sheet for projects at the field house. There were some, when we had our initial meeting with JLG, there were some discrepancies on size of the renovations and things like that. So I worked out with the architect to get a revised sheet, so we know kind of what our budget really would look like. And she did include flooring for the field house, an elevated track, and an elevator as part of this, because I wanted to see what that cost would be just in general. But if you take those out, that's about $828,000. So total construction cost on the low end, you're looking at about 10.5 million, and about 12.2 million on the high end just for the construction costs. So it does drop it down a little bit. And total project costs will be about 12.4 million and 14.1 on the high end. So that's
Sorry, Chris, what
Oh, yeah.
were you pulling out of the budget?
So the hardwood floors, the running track, and the elevated, and the elevator.
Okay.
'Cause those
And
aren't
does
gonna be
this,
paid
does
by
this
RENU.
budget include the $500,000 for the construction manager?
That's
Is that
down
a-
on for total project costs, yes. So the soft costs and everything, that'll be,
So we're down to what?
you go from 12 to 14, 12.5 to about 14.1.
Okay, because as I look at it, we got 14.8, we got $1 million for Johnson, assuming that's at budget. We got 800 for Herman, if that's at budget, we're down to 13. We don't even have enough to do this.
And so that's kind of ties into the dome, as we're looking at the dome, because currently we only really have budgeted about $9 million, currently with the field house projects, seven for construction minus the architect and the construction management. So with the dome project, if we choose not to pursue that, we'll have about $3.5 million to add to the field house budget, which will get us somewhat in line with these prices, and that's where the construction manager would actually come in and help us with the value engineering, looking at to see if these estimates are accurate, because this doesn't take into consideration materials and things like that can alter the costs as well. So the construction manager can come in and help with adjust these figures accordingly. But the big decision right now is, do we continue with the dome or don't we? And if we don't continue with the dome, there's that additional $3.5 million that we could put towards, other projects. My recommendation would be the field house, so we can complete the projects that we want to complete there.
Toby, Tom and other members of the original RENU group would know this better than I, but it seemed to me like the original estimate on the inflatable dome was like $1 million or $1.2 million. And then it kind of morphed into the actual physical structure, hard dome, which got to the 3.5. I think considering the really tough choices we're looking at as these project costs grow, I just don't see that it makes much sense to be continuing to look at funding this dome. And I would...
The dome costs actually were, the 3 million estimate was assuming that would be inflatable.
You
That
had
wasn't-
$3 million for an inflatable?
So most of them that are being built right now are 5 million with all development costs for inflatable, seasonal. Okay, so the fixed structure would be exceeding that, Roger.
Well, in
So
that case,
just-
I'll have to speak even louder. I'd move that we recommend the city council discontinue pursuing a RENU-funded dome.
Second.
Okay, how about opening it up for discussion? Okay, I'm not gonna,
No, I think a chair and members.
you've invested a lot of time, we've invested a lot of time in this, Tom, so that's why.
Yes,
I'll give you
I
a
think
chance to-
over time that prices have gone up. You know, there's inflation daily, monthly, annually, and the $14.8 million legislatively authorized is really not enough to do all 7 of these projects in a high-quality manner. So, you know, there's a decision that needs to be made.
All right, I would support that as well. So we have a motion and a second to discontinue pursuing a RENU-funded dome and make that recommendation to the city council. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. On to item 3.6, Child Daycare Center. And again, there's another proposed action sheet in here on page 23. Chris, are you on this one too?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
So this was another issue that was brought up is can RENU be used for daycare? We have researched into it. You know, while I think we could get legislative support, we haven't heard back from any of the offices on kind of what that process is and, you know, the likelihood of it passing. You know, and with the initial estimates that we got, you know, from the field house projects and then funneling the dome money to help with this project, there really isn't any RENU money that would be available for a child care facility. I do think it is an important issue that we could look at maybe EDA in the city and possibly the EDC putting money into to get a facility up and running. So it would be my recommendation that we recommend to the council that RENU funds not be used to finance a child daycare facility.
Okay, questions or discussion on this item?
I guess the question I would have is, there hasn't actually been a motion presented, but the way Chris described it is not the same as the proposed action item, because I think Chris focused in on where things stand and the budget we're looking at, and that is really, do we just, as a committee, recommend that we stop pursuing amending the legislation to allow funds to be used for it? The motion is written, says to actually recommend to the city council that the city council finance a child daycare with funds other than RENU. So at that point, we're recommending new expenditures, presumably from the general fund or wherever, bonding, wherever the city council would decide to come up with it. So I guess we can recommend to the council anything we want to, but that's not quite the same as just saying we've decided not to pursue this with RENU funds.
Yep.
So whatever the committee wants to
Fair,
do on it.
Chair?
Fair assessment, yes.
Yes, I would agree with that, and I would propose a motion to this effect, that we recommend to the city council that they not consider financing a child daycare center with RENU funds, but do consider financing it with other funds.
Okay, so we have a motion to recommend the city council not pursue child daycare with RENU funds, but evaluate or assess funding of a center with other funding sources. Not exactly how you said it, but,
Second.
okay, and we have a second on that. Any more discussion? Is what I would add is, 4 years ago, I think this would have probably been a higher priority for me with the RENU process. Just didn't get on the list. And I would agree with the discussion today. It just doesn't seem like it's going to fit within RENU, but that doesn't change, I guess, where I see it as a priority for the community. And I think the city is one partner in the community kind of coalition or collaboration that figures out if we're going to be about development and all of the growth and the things we're working on and why we passed RENU. I feel like this needs to be worked on and prioritized.
Tom, for purposes of the minutes that Nicole is taking, or would you agree to the motion as expressed by Toby? So I think he added little language on there about other sources, et cetera.
Yes, I would agree with that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Better
Mhm.
memory.
I would also.
Thank you. Any more discussion or questions?
A little more discussion from me. I fully support pursuing the possibility of a child daycare center in the community. I think it's a very important need. And so I would hope that the city council considers that seriously to pursue the possibility of partnering with other organizations in the community to see a child daycare center come to fruition. It's just not going to fit in the RENU budget, is my opinion.
Okay. All those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Last item before other business, 3.7 Rec Center Construction Manager proposals, and there were many sheets included in our packet on this one, but if you'd go to page 24, at least it has the possible action or proposed action form. City Manager Dalton.
So request for proposals for construction manager at risk services went out on March 4th, 2019. The RFPs were due March 22nd. By 2 p.m., we received 9 proposals. 4 were returning applicants from the CMA RFP, and we had 5 new applicants. The proposals were reviewed by myself, Ryan Wire, Tom Schmitz, and Linda McCracken Hunt, who's the architect at JLG. We all reviewed the proposals. So our recommendation is to award the contract to RJM, who scored the most points at 346. And even though their proposal wasn't the lowest, I would like to note that pricing was 25% of the total ranking, so the pricing was taken into consideration as part of the ranking. I'll open it up to any questions or comments.
Is there a signed contract with the architect?
No, because we have not nailed down a construction cost yet, and that's going to determine what their fee is.
Okay, and are their fees factored into the budget summary?
Yes. Based on the construction costs that they came up with.
15%. It's very light font there, Roger. You can almost not even see it there.
Well, it's just soft costs.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's at
is that-
15%, which would be contractor or construction manager and
And the architect, yeah.
So the combined?
Yeah, the soft costs, yeah, are there.
Okay, so if we pay $500,000 to a construction manager, the architect is going to come in at $1 million?
Well, it's to be determined. And
Board
again,
mem-
it's just a budget sheet based on what they feel, the construction costs are.
I
And
thought
when
the
we,
initial, when their proposal came into the committee,
It was.
again, I
lower.
could be wrong, but I thought they had percentages in there of 7.
I think they were 6.47,
So
6.47,
it'll be-
6.49. So if the construction cost goes up to the $10 million, it'll be 6%, 6.47% of that.
That's one question I had is, we see the pricing on here, the fee, and the points, reflect other factors. What, the review committee, what were the strengths of RJM that would have put them ahead of some of the others with lower pricing or lower fees?
So for me, it was the experience that they had working with rec centers. They had experience with everything except for the gymnastics portion, which there was only one firm, and that was Bradbury Stam, that had gymnastics experience. The rest were pretty much even as far as, everyone's done a pool, a rec center, but they had pool, rec, wellness center, water park, and child play area. They've worked on projects, their proposal reflected what we were looking for. Some of the other proposals, didn't reflect that, or they didn't have enough experience, I felt, in doing water parks or pools and things like that. So their proposal stood out, and I don't mind paying a little bit more knowing I'm going to get quality product and the experience that some of the other firms, didn't show in their proposal. They may have it, it just didn't come through in how they wrote it. That was my take, but Ryan, Elwood, you can chime in with your thoughts on that.
Chair and members, additionally, I would add that they're very fluent in managing and operating under the CMR delivery method. Also, they have significant experience with our architectural firm, JLG, and so those are some of the reasons that I ranked them high too.
Tom or Chris, what page is there? I mean, I'm on page 73 of 367. Where does the RGM show up?
Okay, if you go back to the agenda,
You can just click on RJM off of the agenda.
yeah, the first page of the packet, the agenda, you should be able to go down and click on any of the proposals, including the
You can get me
RJM
back to the,
proposal, which I am showing as page 180.
Oh, great. Excellent, thank you, guys.
There you go.
If I remember correctly, RJM interviewed or was down doing a presentation, and Wink.
Yeah,
right?
they were one of
Those
the-
were our two finalists that we thought were the strongest firms the first go-around before we flipped the model.
Yep, that is correct.
I guess I still kind of have a problem with about $50,000 more. We're already running over on this project, and we haven't even started. So I don't know if we're obligated by the bidding process, Roger, that we have to go with the lower bid.
No, I think with this, because this is considered, that's one of the finagling things that happens with this construction manager model, is this is considered a professional service, so we're not necessarily bound to take the lowest bidder.
Okay, other questions or discussions on the construction manager at risk service proposal?
Chair and members of the committee, I just want to extend a little bit of what Tom had mentioned about the CMR experience. There were some firms in the bottom half that listed 0 CMR experience, not even limited. There were some that listed 0. And there were even others that listed maybe one project that they had conducted in that delivery method.
And just so the committee's aware of this, the proposal that's being recommended, it sounds like they've got two components. Their expenses of 300 reimbursable expenses, $387,873, call it $388, and then it's 1.65% of the project, which they were estimating at $8,200,000. So if it goes up to 10, we're looking at an extra 165. They would be, well over 500. So I'm really hoping that they can save us a lot of money with all those subcontractors that they're going to be beating down. So I'm sure not seeing it at this point. It looks like a hefty amount of profit margin for any general contractor to have.
I guess moving forward here, I would like to see for the council some pros and cons for each of the two that you're narrowed it down to for when we get to the council for voting on that, and to kind of explain the costs. And I guess if we're looking at, if they're factored into 8 million, Roger, it was, and then another percentage up to 10 million, to kind of explain that to the whole council, because it's kind of confusing.
Well, that
We have better.
we got to move forward with this, but
Correct.
we've got a commitment, in Johnson Park. I think we definitely, need to be doing something with Herman. And I know, Chris has said, well, now, we're going to start trying to whittle some of this stuff down. And there's this hope the construction manager is going to work wonders getting cheaper numbers for us. But I've got some real concerns that we're already looking at a situation where we cannot afford the projects without the dome. And what does that mean? I mean, we've got Johnson that we're committed to. You know, where do things stand with the priorities for Herman? Are we going to make a recommendation to the council? Is that at the tail end after the rec center? And if so, what does that mean? We've got a wall on the hill, if you drive up it, that's collapsed. It needs to be fixed, and that project needs to be done. If we're going to commit to doing that, and we get some hard numbers, and if that comes in, you know, at $1 million or $1.2 million, what have we got left for this project? And how are we going to finance it? And is the city of New Ulm going to kick in an extra $1 million or $2 million to do this?
Mhm.
I mean, I think there's, and I know we can't know for sure until we get some final numbers, but.
Right. I think, Roger, you know, one thing I would add to that is the high-level conceptual drawings like
Right, I
this.
saw, yeah.
Okay. In our initial RENU proposals and framework, we did not have, you know, 6 million, maybe with the other costs and escalators and contingency, 6.5 million for the pool or the aquatics. That kind of changed, so I think that is going to be, as I look at what number is the largest on the list there, if you would allocate kind of the cost from the bottom up to the top numbers to a project cost, it's probably 6.5, 7 million on the pool number of 17,000 square feet. That's the one where if there's $220,000 off for Herman,
Right.
that's the number
And-
that is.
And, you know, and I have not, I don't need to be or plan to be involved in the discussions with the architect, but looking at the detailed sketch here, I mean, that's a little different than everything I'd heard until today, because it had been the gymnastics center was going to be to the north of the field house, and then this was going to be there. Now it looks like it would be built on top of the pool. If there's cost savings or other reasons to be doing that, you know, we're going to defer to the architect. But I've just got some concerns that at the end of the day, what we're going to end up with here is a new pool with a water slide. And is that really what this whole thing has been about? You know, and we got to keep moving forward, but things are kind of slipping away from us here. And, you know, I know if there's going to be any adjustments, it sounds like it's going to have to be made in the rec center and the pool. If we're committing to the gymnastics facility, it's going to probably have to come out of something else. And, I mean, these are tough decisions that the committee's going to make recommendations on, and ultimately the council is. But our architect needs to know what are our priorities. And if we get our construction manager, they'll be working with them to presumably fine-tune the numbers. But,
I don't think our issue of kind of total project costs, at least from my standpoint, and you've already recognized that, are probably not going to get better every 6 months we're sitting here. They're probably going to
Right.
go the other way, given that there's a fixed amount that could be financed through RENU. So what I heard from Larry, I think what you were indicating is between RJM and Knutson being the top two, and there was a differential. If a little bit more detail could be prepared for the city council on the breakdown of financing, how much of that are reimbursables up front, how much of that is tied to project costs, what if the project's 10 million?
Correct. I would like to see more of that information, and then the information that we're being provided with, it was at the last council meeting, and tonight we have the same diagram, I believe. And I think that should come to council to see and know why we're thinking going this route versus originally we're gonna build a new pool to the north of the pool and where the gymnastics was, and trying to explain our costs. Because I think,
and I
you
think
know,
there's, you know, the city council's looking at this for the city at large. And when we get into these questions of other costs, councilors have, you know, in discussions, brought up questions like, all right, if we increase the traffic flow with gymnastics, with the pool, with other activities going on there, what does that mean for the intersection of Garden and Center Streets? Is that going to stay the same? Is the city going to spend $1 million for a roundabout there, or some other traffic, you know, control devices? I don't know if there's been any kind of study about, is that going to happen? We've already seen it with the high school, where, you know, now we need to put in a roundabout, and it's true. But the state of Minnesota, they were discounting the safety concerns on Highway 14 and North Highland. we need to look at the big picture here, and these are other aspects of it. But to move forward, yeah, we're going to have to have some kind of recommendation with any additional comments the committee wants to present to the council so that they can move forward with this.
So is there an interest from anyone on the committee this afternoon to make a motion recommending RJM?
I'll make a motion to recommend that we recommend RJM an amount of, it'll be a little bit more now that we kind of have a $10 million figure, but I'll say, what was that, like 600,
Well,
650,000?
Chris, I think the nature of these proposals is they're estimated expenses plus the contingency, and based upon it, that's
Yeah.
whatever your assumption is on where we
Does it
end
have
up
to be
with
the
number.
amount or
Because
just
the council
RJM?
needs to know, it's not like they're gonna get this at that price, depending upon what the final numbers are.
The construction
Could be,
costs, yeah.
could be less, but it's likely gonna be more. But anyway, that's the proposal. It's just like with the architect, estimated upon construction costs, this is what their fee is gonna be. This is not a flat fee bid,
Yeah.
so.
So I guess recommending RJM to enter into a contract that will be negotiated upon final construction costs.
Okay.
I would second that motion and possibly even try adding the fact that the city council would like to have a little bit more of an analysis with the Knutson firm.
Yeah. I also would like to see more detail, from parking and all the diagrams of what we're looking at here with their plans.
I think it's going to be
Sketch.
hard, we got a motion and second on here, but I think it's going to be, at least from my standpoint, going through many projects, it's hard, we don't have a signed contract with the architect yet, of expecting kind of the detail of the conceptual design. I think they're right now on a sketch, doing things after one meeting.
Sure.
But I think if we firm up, here's what we're willing to spend, here's how much money we have, here are the project goals, I think those will be coming, but I think we got to get some contracts in place so we have people working with us to get to that end. But I have a motion here. It was modified over there, so I'm going to look to you two to reconcile on whether you're adjusting are you okay with what he added on the
Yeah, I'm fine with
additional details from Knutson, so there's a more thorough comparison provided for city council?
that. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to go with, we have a motion from Chris and second from Tom. Any other discussion? All those in favor of that motion and second, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye. Or no.
So we have one. I don't know that I heard everyone else. It was a vote. Are we, did I? I'm sorry,
I
was
abstained,
not-
I did not,
abstaining?
I did
Did
not
I hear,
vote.
Chris?
That was
you-
aye, yeah.
You were aye, yes?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so motion passes. What else did we, other business? Item number 4, any other business for the committee to entertain this afternoon? Look at that, Roger.
God, amazing. You work wonders.
All right, we'll adjourn the meeting and watch your calendar. We'll, I'm sure, have another meeting or committee meeting scheduled. So thanks, everyone, for your attendance. Thank you, Clay.